but also this is my co-host Kay. Kay Walker. Yes, we changed now. We changed now to be co-host. So we're going on to our next speaker, Miss Tara Woods Turner. And she is a best-selling author and also the host of Books and Company.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the introduction. Yes, my name is Tara Woods Turner, and oh gosh, I wear a lot of hats here. First of all, is my visual up? Is that okay? Are we good?
Yes.
We're good.
Okay. You know, my technology skills are kind of all over the place, but yes, I am a best-selling author. I'm the author of Beyond Good Manners: How to Raise a Sophisticated Child, sort of a modern parenting guide. I am all for a reading and discussion group on Goodreads called Wealth Writing World. Also, assistant moderator for Navigating Indie World. I'm a developmental and content editor. I help other authors to create their, ultimate author branding websites. I'm a blogger, content contributor. I write articles for other websites and in e-zines. So, doing a lot of things here, but it almost all of it revolves around, books, fiction and nonfiction, literature, writing, and there really is no better way to express or to sort of convey the fact that the importance of books is, for those of us who work in words, I think it's the funniest thing that there really are no words to express how important books are, how important words are. As far as my history with the written word, it goes back, like many other authors, I can say it goes back to childhood. I began reading at the age of 3. My uncle actually was in the Army Reserve, and he was my absolute hero. I worshiped my uncle. So when he would come home with his college books, because he was also a part-time student in college, I was fascinated by the fact that he was reading, and he explained to me that the information in the books was conveyed through written words, and this concept kind of blew my mind. So he would sit me on his lap, and he took a pencil and he just wrote out my name, Tara. And once I understood that what he wrote was something that no matter anywhere in the world, if someone read those same words, that it would convey the exact same thing, that one word represented me as a person. That was it. I was hooked. And so I bugged him until gradually he began to, teach me the alphabet. And by the time I was 4, I was reading, complete beginner books, picture books. So that started my lifelong love of books, and it just began to grow and grow, as I got older. And coming from a family of readers, reading was something that was always encouraged. Being an African American, books were something that, from the time I was young, it was strongly impressed upon me that punished or even killed for doing. So it was never taken for granted that I could pick up a book and read it and understand it and enjoy it. Even, throughout middle school, high school, throughout college and university, there were so many examples of people, revolutionaries, activists in other countries who, again, could be put to death or given long prison sentences just for reading, just for picking up a manifesto or a manuscript or an edict, and reading it or spreading the word. So it was something that I never took for granted. being able to not only express my own ideas, but to read the ideas of others was something that, wasn't taken lightly. So that, again, that was something that was always an important part of my childhood. And then when I began to discover that I didn't have to always just read other people's words, I could create my own worlds, within those words. That is what began a very important journey of using literature as a form of self-expression. I believe I wrote my first short story in the 4th grade. It was a Christmas story about all the toys in Santa's sack and how they were sort of, arguing or getting along or forming alliances. Now this was, years before Toy Story. So it was a lot of fun to write that. And my 4th grade teacher gave the story to my principal, and I was asked to read the story to the 2nd grade class during their Christmas party. So that was a pivotal moment, not only just because of the joy we get as writers from, our audience or feedback we get from readers, but again, it impressed upon me that words have the power to change, either in a small way, just by seeing children respond to a story, making their party more fun or brightening their mood, or in large ways, through social change or revolution. Words have the power to change, to transform. And so that, again, that stayed with me throughout the years. So I wrote, all through high school. When I graduated high school, I began to write professionally. I wrote for e-zines and music blogs and music magazines, which was kind of revolutionary at the time because writing online was just beginning to take off. So, online and in print. Of course, all through college. And it's interesting to write as a college student because you do so much writing that you don't necessarily want to do. So the thought of sitting down to write a book at that time, it was out of the question. I was so sort of fatigued from so much academic reading and writing that it didn't really strike me as something that I necessarily wanted to do for a living. But I think that touches on something that Kamichi was saying in her presentation about how important it is as a writer to tell your truth, to speak about things that are going on in your life or in your mind or your heart, and not necessarily having to march to the beat of the drummer. You do your own thing with the things that it is that you want to convey. And that's something, that's a lesson that kind of was very, very important to me as I, as a young woman, as I was, entering into my late 20s, early 30s. And even though I had a different career trajectory, writing was something that I knew I would always do in some form of another, whether professionally or personally. And now, of course, I'm very fortunate to be able to write full time. But like most writers will tell you, it's something that is in your blood. If you're a writer, you're going to write regardless. I'm just, fortunate enough to be able to focus on my writing almost exclusively. I am a consultant, an etiquette consultant. But again, it's not something that I can easily separate from who I am as an author. It's all very much interwoven. I can't imagine any career or any avocation that I would take up that would not involve writing in some form or another. And I think that's not only true of myself, but I think it speaks to the times that we live in. There are very few careers that you can enter into, which in some form of another And 9 times out of 10, that's going to involve not only, a strong social media presence, but it almost always involves blogging. This is an age when, the written word is more transformative and more powerful than ever. And even when it's not necessarily affecting change, at least overtly affecting change, it is always pulling in other people, other experiences. And that is being done, at least in, today, that is being done through blogging, blogging and social media. So it's almost impossible to separate, our words from what we do. Reading is no longer just a form of relaxation. Reading is how we communicate, how we work. So again, so just to narrow it down a little bit, I just wanted to speak briefly about, the power of literature or the power of words for women, for those of us who as women want to not only tell our story, but make sure that our story is our narrative is out there the way we want it to be told. And that is so important. One of my favorite quotes, and my memory is terrible when it comes to remembering exactly who said what, but I think one of the most famous quotes about the written word is, "The pen is mightier than the sword." Another quote that I love is, "History is written by the winners." So when you look at this from the perspective of, of women, in literature or women authors or women writers, that becomes an extremely important thing to consider. If history is written by the winners, what does that tell us about, the state of literature, fiction and nonfiction, up until this point in time? And the truth is that our stories, our narratives were not always adequately reflected, in the choices that we have had in the past as readers. And, there have always been some standouts, of course. You have amazing women authors. I mean, going back even to the poet Sappho. I mean, we could go back centuries, but I think the difference between, strong female writers we've had in the past who have influenced, the course and flow of the written word, the difference between then and now, and again, Kamichi now, it is so easy to self-publish and to put your own story out there that there's almost no barrier to communication. There's almost no barrier to publishing, no barrier to blogging, to putting, your story out there your way. And it'll be fascinating, within the next 20 years, the next, 50 years, the next 100 years, to see how what we are doing today as contemporary writers, how it will affect, what will be seen in the future as contemporary history today. And I think that can only ever be, a good thing. It's fascinating, it's amazing, and it makes me proud to see how, as women writers, we're able to tell our stories our own way, which is another reason I strongly encourage women to write. It's not so much about success. Success is, it's not only is it variable, but it's hard to define because it will mean something to you. It might mean something else to me. If I have 5 parents, who read my parenting book and get something out of it, that to me might be, penultimate success. Whereas selling 1,000 copies might mean success to you. So I think looking at it from a standpoint of success is not necessarily the best way to go about it. That's something you can tackle after you've written, your book. The most important thing to do as women writers is just to write. Put down one word and then another, and then another, and then another. and you'll see your narrative begin to take shape. Write about the thing that you cannot keep inside. Write the thing that you must share, that you must tell people, that you need to get out. And as you begin to look at it that way, not necessarily, well, I don't know if anyone would be interested. I don't know if my story is universal. I don't know if my story is important. None of that matters. None of that matters. Just write what you know. Write the thing inside of you that is bursting to get out, to come through. And what you'll begin to find is there is someone out there who can identify with your story. There's someone out there who needs to hear what you, and only you, have to say.
Thank you for your wonderful words, Miss Turner. Good Turner. Oh, we have a couple of questions for the audience, from the audience.
Yes.
Do you think that it is important for authors to be avid readers, and why?
I do, actually. I do think it's important for writers to be avid readers. First of all, just from a technical standpoint, it helps you to perfect, it brings you your writing A game. You learn a lot of technical skills as far as composition, imagery, word use, context. It's very important as far as keeping your own writing skills sharp. But it also serves as inspiration. It serves as inspiration, and it lets you know what people out there are responding to. So I think it's very important.
Thank you. I'd like to, at this time, open it up to anyone that is here virtually that would like to ask a question to Ms. Turner. Please feel free to do so. Okay, so I guess we have no questions from them, and I'd like to thank you again for your